It's no secret if you've been around any length of time that I like motorcycles, but you might not know the origin of how that came about. It was the craziest, most stupid idea I thought that I'd ever heard up to that point. I was in a group meeting with a bunch of men in the mornings. We were meeting for a couple of years, and one of the guys said, "Hey, why don't we take our wives, fly out to Vegas, rent motorcycles, and hang out for 4 days or so with everybody?" And I thought that was utterly ridiculous. It was outside my mind of how someone should spend their time, outside my mind of how someone should spend their money. I hadn't ridden a motorcycle since I was 22 years old, and I was married for 3 weeks, and I sold it because we were low on cash. And I hadn't ridden a motorcycle since, and I hadn't thought of riding one since. And my body was on overdrive. Medically speaking, my adrenal glands were fried. They were open all the time, worrying about budget things, staffing things, preaching things, all kind of stuff. And so play was nowhere on my mind at all. We decided to go because I put in my mind of, this will be sort of ministry. So I can actually make it work because I'm trying to build in these guys and their marriages. So I'll be able to do that. And what I experienced blew me away. I got restored, I got refreshed, and it actually opened up an entire new lease on life. 2 things I've learned that make life work: purpose and play. If you don't have purpose, your life won't work. And if you don't have play, your life won't work. I like to think of these on 2 axes. I've kind of devised this. I've been throwing around people, and it seems to make sense. You have the x-axis, which is purpose, and the y-axis, which is play. These are 2 things that if you don't have these things, your life is not going to work well. What is purpose? Purpose is when you have a point for living that day, when you have a to-do list. You have things you've got to get done. You've got people you got to talk to. You've got something that's propelling you to get up in the day. It's moving your day forward. That's why I like it on the x-axis. You're kind of moving. It's like chop, 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 chop. What is play? Play is utterly unproductive. You're not moving. You're not chop, chop. If you are moving and chop, chop on a motorcycle at 80 miles an hour, you're moving and chop, chopping because you're not thinking about anything else that's going to add to your paycheck. You don't think about anything else that's going to increase your notoriety with people. You don't think about anything else that's going to justify that time. You are off and you start to get restored. When you see the intersection of purpose and play, if you see somebody who has in the lower right corner, who has all purpose, they're going where they need to go, they're working buku hours every week. I don't even know what buku hours is, but buku for you might not be buku for you. It's a matter of your own personal capacity. When you see somebody that's all about where they're going, what they're doing, and that's all they're doing, it's all they're about, their life eventually becomes painful. This is where I was. My adrenal glands were fried. I was breaking down physically, gaining weight, back getting worse and worse. I was having to convince myself to do things like preach, which I love and I know is important, but I was having to convince myself and try to fire myself up for it. There was all kind of fraying on the home front and all over the place because I was about working, building a church, doing stuff was important stuff. And without any sense of distraction or play, life became incredibly painful. If you are all play, all being off, not really doing anything that is productive, if that's another extreme thing. If you're in the upper left, if you're all the way up there, your life becomes pointless. What is the point to your life? This is, by the way, why statistics are very clear. When you retire and your goal is just to not have purpose, it's to golf or watch Price is Right or whatever it is. When you do that, statistics are very clear. You die sooner because we all need a point to our life. And so if we're only playing, we're only detaching, we're only watching TV, we're only reading novels, we're not going to have something. It's going to be pointless. If you have no play in your life and you have no purpose in your life, you have a pitiful life. It's just pitiful. Nothing is good going on in your life at all. Where I want to get more of us to, it's where I am right now. I have been for a while. That's where I want to get more and more people to. In fact, we're going to do a journey in this fall. A journey is something we haven't done for a year and a half, and we're going to do one this fall. It is a full-on creative press to try to bring an area of spiritual growth to our lives. And we're going to do it this fall. So we shut things down around Crossroads, and we have the best services we possibly can that coincide with groups that we all get in, and also some stuff we can do at home if we want. And it's going to be around this upper right quadrant. It's going to be around this entire matrix, actually, having purpose and play. It's going to be getting to a place where you prosper. Where you prosper. When you have a high degree of play, and when you have purpose in your life, there is a prosperity that comes to you. Now, I hate to use that word almost because, unfortunately, that word prosperity has been hijacked by the televangelists. And that word is only used by some pastors in relationships who you should give. You should give more so God prospers you. And to be clear, I'm a big fan of giving. The closer I get to Jesus, the more I want to be like him, and he's a giver. He gave his life. So that's a great, great message. But that is such a fine smidgen of what prosperity is. 3,100 times in the Bible, the word prosperity is used. Over 3,100. Let me say, over 3,100 times in the Bible, the word prosperity is used. Here's one of the early ones, Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 9. Therefore, keep the words of this covenant and do them, that you may prosper in all you do. You may prosper. You may succeed in all you do. Having prosperity, it's being in a land that is lush. It's being in a land where there's purpose. It's being in a land where you don't feel impinged upon and squashed on. It's like there's wide open spaces. You're just living large and enjoying and cruising through life. And this is why God talks about this word. There's all kind of angles to this word over 3,100 times. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 44, verse 17. It says, for then we had plenty of food and prospered and saw no disaster. Man, it's an awesome thing when you have plenty of food. In fact, when all your needs are met and a heck of a lot of your wants are met. That is amazing. One more, Psalm 1:3. It says this. He, who is he? He is somebody who is being blessed by God, who is close by God. He or she is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and all that he does, he prospers. Now, there's a lot going on here. We imagine, or you can see this, there's a body of water here that's going by here, right? And you've got this tree that's growing. And whenever a tree is growing and its roots are going into the ground, it's going into ground that's right beside the water table. And it's incredibly moist ground. It's luscious, moist ground. Some of us really don't like that word, moist. I know. Do you not like the word? Who doesn't like the word moist? Just raise your hand. All right. I will not say moist anymore. So it's this land where all the vitamins and nutrients are in there and the roots are growing. And when this happens, this tree starts blossoming and growing. It's a figure for what our life should be like. We should be planted beside God where we're feeling his presence and where our heart's going deeper and we're getting more and more grounded in character and in his truth. And while this happens, it says fruit comes out. Now, I think it's interesting that it's fruit. It doesn't say vegetables, it says fruit. I am pro-vegans, I am pro-vegetarianism. I'm not one because animals taste too good. They just do. But I am pro it because I have a lot of salads, and every time I have a salad, I go, man, I think I could become a vegetarian. I really could. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. But like I said, I like the taste of animals too much. But here is the thing that's interesting about this verse. And people are very specific. When you want to really, really be healthy and you want to get vegan, they're more specific saying it needs to be a plant-based diet. Plant-based. What are they saying by that? Well, it's basically vegetable-based, plant-based. Fruit is God's dessert. Fruit is God's way to play with our taste buds. Fruit is God's way to give us strawberries and blackberries and explode. If all God was concerned about was the purpose of you having fuel and energy to do the stuff that you need to do, then there wouldn't be any need for fruit because it's dessert. If you really want to be healthy and you want to not eat animals, you need to do broccoli and spinach and and I like all those things. But fruit, it's interesting this verse says fruit. So when we prosper, there is an advance in our life. We feel like we're advancing. We feel like we're getting things done. We can see points on the scoreboard. The metrics are looking good. There are things that we can measure. And we're feeling pleasure, and we're playing, and our taste buds are dancing just because God is good and because we are human beings. We aren't human doings. And if all we're doing is that stuff, we're going to hurt ourselves. So my request for you is this summer, the rest of this summer, take care of yourself. Don't leave vacation days on the table. Take care of yourself. Know what it is you need to accomplish every week. And as we get closer to this fall, we're going to amp this up because we want the best for you. It's going to be called the Play and Purpose Journey, and it's going to be really effective.